I'm Emily and welcome to episode 3 of the PetiteKnit Knitting Podcast. I'm a knitter based in Perth in Western Australia, and this is where I like to share all of the things that I've been working on. As I said, I'm mainly a knitter, but I also enjoy sewing and other crafts which will make an appearance today again, but I will leave those towards the end if you're just here for the knitting. So it's been a few weeks since I recorded my last podcast, and I have 2 finished objects to share and a few new whips, as well as some progress on my other whips and one little acquisition as well to share. So let's just get started on talking about my finished objects. So the first finished object that I have to share, actually both of them that I have to share, I hadn't started at all in my previous episode. I had hinted a little bit at them in that I was waiting for yarn to start a test knit, and the test knit had a very tight deadline. So I was keen to get started on it, and I just somehow finished a whole sweater in like 3 or 4 days. So the sweater in question is the Bonfire sweater by Hiris Makes, and here is my version. I knit this one in West Yorkshire Spinners Croft yarn, mostly for 2 of the colours. The cream is some leftover Heirloom Merino Magic 10-ply that I had sitting in stash from a previous project, but we can get into that a little bit later. So when I saw the testicle for this sweater, I really wanted to sign up and make it. I just think it's a very classic design, being the color work, but it's also very kind of simple and stripped back, and it's just a beautiful design. I've been getting really into doing color work lately. I had my spring fling, I've been doing color work socks, and I'm just really enjoying the rhythm of following a chart and seeing the color work knit up, and I just think it looks really fun and impressive, when in reality it's not a really hard technique, it just looks really impressive. So like I said, I used the Croft by West Yorkshire Spinners, which is 100% Shetland wool, and I'm really enjoying using this yarn. It's so soft. I had to keep checking that it wasn't a superwash yarn because it is just so smooth and really nice against skin. I've mentioned before I can be a little bit sensitive to wool, but this is not itchy for me at all. Bear in mind I haven't really worn it that much because it's really hot. It's like 37 degrees today, which is why I'm not wearing any knitwear. So I probably won't get a lot of wear out of this in the near future to really test how well the yarn wears and how it feels against my skin when I'm hotter or cooler. But for the most part, even when I've been knitting it, it's been in my lap, or I've been taking photos and the turtleneck has been around my neck, which can be quite sensitive on me. I've had no itch at all, even when I was taking photos the other evening and it was probably still 25 degrees Celsius. It wasn't itchy on me at all. So point being that the yarn is very soft, and I'm glad I took a gamble and tried something new. I'm really eager to kind of dip my toes into some different yarns, explore the non-superwash options, which can be a little bit more difficult to access here in Perth, but actually my local yarn store does stock this. I didn't purchase most of it from there because I just didn't think they would have it. I ordered this from Yarn Trader in Adelaide, and I bought 3 skeins of the main colour, the grey, but turns out that wasn't enough. Because it was a test knit, obviously the designer sometimes just has to guess these things depending on what size you're making. So I did have to go and buy a 3rd skein, and because the test knit deadline was quite short, I just went in on a gamble and found that my local yarn store in Fremantle, which is Yarns on Collie, actually had it in stock. I don't think they had the DK weight version. I think she just said she had this Aran weight. But anyway, I didn't have the same dye lot, so you can definitely see, especially in some of the photos, that I had to alternate skeins for the body. Let's see how well it will pick up. In person, it's really not that obvious. And if someone is looking that closely at my sweater, then they'll know I made it. Oh no, what a shame. They'll know that I made my own sweater. But I think it's really not that obvious. It just has a bit of striping. I did do helical knitting when I realized that I would need another skein, so It's just for the body. The sleeves and the yoke and everything and the neckline are all in the same dye lot. I just had to swap in at the end. But that's just part of test knitting process. It's part of making your own clothing, just using what you have. And obviously the test knit deadline was quite short. So I think it was only about 3 weeks since the test haul went out, and the pattern is being launched tomorrow, Sunday, the 5th of November, which is Bonfire Day in the UK, hence the name. It's a bonfire sweater. Obviously, it's not celebrated here because I don't know if we have a total fire ban at the moment, but it's approaching that season where you're not allowed fires, so I probably won't get a lot of use out of this for now, but I'm glad to have this in my collection. And it was such a pleasure being part of the test knit. I really enjoyed the approach that Hiris had. We were kind of given very clear instructions on the social side of the test knit in Instagram chat, and we were also given clear instructions on how it would benefit her to receive our feedback. So it was really nice to have both of those aspects of the test knit, and she took on board most of our feedback really well, explained the changes that she was making, and I think there was a few things that people had given feedback on that she wouldn't change, and it was just nice for her to take the time to explain that this is the way it's done in all my other patterns. I want to remain consistent, and I think one of them was like the way the short rows were written, and obviously there's a million ways to write them. People do them different ways, and you're never going to please everyone. So I found them fine, to be honest. I didn't struggle. They were a bit different to what I'm used to reading, but if you've done short rows before, it's a bit intuitive. You're only really looking at, for me, I only look at the number of stitches past the turn that you're knitting to, and the rest is just intuitive to me. Anyway, so that was a bit about my experience being a test knitter for Hiris. It's the first time I've test knit for her, and actually the first pattern I've knit from her, and I really enjoyed it. I like the pattern writing style. It's very easy for me to follow, and of course I really like the finished object. So I knit the size 2, I believe. I always leave my measurements in the description box. I don't know if people want to know, like, hear me talk about my measurements. I know that that can be a little bit of, not a sensitive subject, but it's not really relevant. You know, if you really wanted to know my measurements, then they'll be there. If you don't want to know, then I'm not going to talk about it. I mean, everybody is different, and every knitter is different, and your gauge is different, your yarn, like there's so many factors that go into how a garment fits. So I think it's probably not the most important thing to discuss, but anyways, I did make the size 2, and I kept with the recommended 6mm needles. I did a very quick gauge swatch, and I was happy with the gauge. The fabric is a little bit loose. The stitches aren't as plump as some of the other testers were, but I think honestly that will suit me a little bit better in the climate that I live in. It is like a little bit gapey in some areas. I'm not sure if you can see what I mean, but I just think that I would have preferred something that filled out the space a little bit more. But I met gauge, so I think that was probably the most important thing, being that it was a test knit. If I was to make it again, maybe I would choose a different yarn, but I think this version is more than meets my requirements. So I bought the yarn online from Yarn Trader, which is not a local yarn shop to me, it's in another state. And being that I bought it online, I didn't really know what colours I was going to get. I'd never seen this yarn in person before. I wasn't sure if the colours were accurate online, so I did choose different colours than what I actually ended up with. The colours that I ordered were these 3, and when they arrived, my heart sank a little bit. The yarn I ordered on a Saturday morning, so fair enough, they didn't ship on the Saturday or the Sunday. The Monday, the yarn shop was closed, so they don't process orders on the Monday. It was sent out on the Tuesday via express post, and it didn't arrive until the following Monday, which I thought was so long for express post to one state over. To me, I was really surprised. I even emailed the store to check that it was sent via express postage, and she said, yeah, it was. It just takes a while because you're in WA. And I was like, it's like one state over, but besides the point. So I finally got the yarn. That was a week of the 3 or 4 week test knit gone, and I was a bit apprehensive because I was knitting with a yarn I'd never knit before, and for a designer I'd never tested before or even knit one of her patterns, so I was a little bit nervous that we were going to cut it really close, but I was excited for the challenge. I think it's really fun to set these goals for myself and just see what I can achieve. So I'm really proud that I managed to get it done actually before the test knit deadline. I finished this one over the weekend, I think, last weekend, so I had about a week to spare. So these 3 colours arrived in the post and I just wasn't a fan. I was kind of umming and ahhing over the colours for like a few hours. I definitely wanted this colour, which I thought in the photos looked a lot more pink. It's very purple in person, so I was a little bit thrown off by that. And the blue is definitely more of a royal blue. I thought it would be a bit of a deeper navy than it actually is, so that wasn't ideal. The grey was grey, that's what I expected, so I was happy with this one. And I think the purple is not really my colour that I'm usually drawn to, but I thought I could make that work. I preferred it over this blue. I just am not really drawn to these rich, deep blues. Navies I really like, but I think this is not really considered a neutral. I thought it would be 2 neutrals and like a pink colour. So I got the colours in the mail and did a swatch with the blue and it just wasn't happening. I did consider just going with it and making it work, but it is still a lot of work to do a whole sweater, even on 6mm needles with this kind of Aran weight yarn. I just thought if I'm going to go to all the effort and spend my time and kind of rush through a knit as well, because I was rushing it to be honest, I would want something that I was actually going to wear at the end. So I had a look through my stash, and I'm not someone with a very big stash. I haven't really been like knitting garments for very long, only like a few years, so I haven't accumulated like a ton of scraps in lots of colours and weights that I could have just picked from. I knew that I wanted to do obviously the grey as the main colour and this purple as the kind of dots at the top and as the middle bit and the colour work. The navy just wasn't looking good where this cream is now, so I managed to find that colour to fit in with my colour scheme, and I think it looked really nice. I'm really happy with the choice that I made. I'm so glad that I took the time to swatch again and kind of go through my stash and my scraps and find something that I was much happier with. I was a little bit concerned that the cream colour is a very slippery, smooth, squeaky superwash yarn. I bought a sweaters quantity to knit up sweater number 18 by My Favourite Things Knitwear a couple of years back. I knit the whole thing. I wore it maybe once or twice and I just didn't like it. My gauge was probably a bit off, so the sleeves were way tighter than they should have been, and the yarn is just very like stiff, and I felt like I was walking around like this and it just wasn't very nice. It's also a little bit itchy, which is a bit irritating seeing that it's a superwash yarn and it's very smooth and slippery, that it's still itchy. So anyway, I had plenty of that left over because I frogged that sweater, or I started to frog it, so I knew I would have plenty of yarn and could use some of it at least in this sweater. So I think it actually worked out really well. The weights and the meterages per 50 grams were basically identical for the Croft and the superwash yarn, so I knew that the weight would be okay and my gauge would be fine. I was just a bit worried more about the blocking, because it's quite like a chunk of this and then sandwiched between the non-superwash and then that again. I was a bit worried that it would like kind of make it look a little bit bumpy, like especially along here when I blocked it, but it actually turned out really well, so I am really glad that that worked out. Oh yeah, I have one more thing to say, and it's a little bit of a secret in that I knit the right sleeve and I smashed it out in like a couple of evenings, and I was like, I can easily do the second sleeve in like one day, and I absolutely powered through the second sleeve. I got to the ribbing and I was like, easy. Changed my smaller needles, get out my 5.5mm needles. Where are they? Oh no, I just knit the whole sleeve on the wrong needle slice. So I didn't know what to do. I obviously should have ideally ripped out and reknitted again, but I kind of held the sleeves up together and I was like, can't really tell the difference. They're like the same length. It's not really that noticeable. I don't think there's any difference in the gauge, so we left it. We just knit the ribbing and we were done. I mean, I thought if I block it and I'm wearing it for a little while and I can really notice there's a difference, obviously I'll rip it out and do it again on the correct needle size. But at this point, I was just kind of ready to tackle the body and get some really nice photos and fill in the tester form and be ready to go. So that was a little bit stressful, but in the end, I can barely even notice a difference. I mean, it is a slightly bit smaller and maybe like a tiny bit of a stiffer fabric. So like I said, if it bothers me, I'll go back and rip it out. But because I'd already knit one sleeve on the correct needle size and I was confident to give Iris the feedback of saying, yes, it fit me really well and I like the decreases and the yardage and everything was fine, I was pretty confident that it would be okay to give that positive feedback. The sleeves are quite long. I think I probably did a tiny bit more, maybe half a centimeter more between my decreases. So they're a little bit long, but I love a long sleeve. I love having them like over my hands, and I think because I have maybe long arms for my body proportions, a lot of ready-to-wear sweaters are like cutting off here on my arms and it just looks a bit weird. So it's nice that I can, when I make my own sweaters, make the sleeves nice and cozy and long, and it's just such a good feeling. So I think that's everything I have to share on my Bonfire sweater. It's just so cozy. The stitches are like extra squishy, and I really like the neckband as well. That's the other thing I wanted to mention, that I'm not really one to do like these mock necks. I'm always worried that they're just gonna like make me look like I'm being suffocated by a jumper, but this one I think I can pull it off. It is extra warm and cozy, so I think it will be very practical. If it doesn't look great, at least I know if it's a really cold day or I'm going somewhere where I'm going to need something warm, I can take this with me. I did a German twisted cast on, and then I knit the ribbing and then knit the ribbing to the cast on, and I think it's really stretchy. Like, it's super easy to get it over my head, but it doesn't look too wide when it's on. So I definitely will do that again. I think it worked out really well. So yes, this was really a fun experience. It was a good challenge. It was fun to be in a part of a new designer, to me, test group, and it was so exciting to see everyone's color combinations. There's some really different ones. Iris has made a second sample in Camaro Snefnug, I think, in a yellow main color, and then I think it's cream and like bright pink as the contrast colors. It looks so cool. I really like that. I'll be honest, I was hoping that this purple was going to be more pink, but I think in the end it kind of goes quite well with the grey, because the grey is quite a cool tone. Maybe the pink would have like looked a little bit out of place, but anyways, super happy with this one. So that is my first finished object, and my second one is very similar to that, and that is because Iris has also gone and designed a beanie to go with the sweater. So this is the Bonfire hat, and it was so fun that she just whipped up this design, like this pattern, to go along with the sweater as we were doing the test knit. I finished this one, I can't remember when, sometime during the week, and I was just itching to have a hat to match. I'm not sure why, because I never ever wear hats. Maybe once a year when I go camping and I'm thinking, oh, it might be a little bit chilly, I'll just take a hat with me. It's not something I really wear regularly, especially a colorwork one with a huge pom-pom. I just don't see myself wearing this. Let me try it on, because it definitely looks a little bit funky when it's on. I think the problem is that it's just too much fabric up here, and the pom-pom definitely doesn't help that, in that it's a bit heavy and like sags down. Yeah, it looks a bit funny. But it was a good way to use up some leftover yarn, because as you can see, I had quite a bit left of the purple and I used up most of my third skein of the grey. So that was really nice, and the white I have plenty left because I have a whole sweater's quantity still. So I was kind of just went along with I was caught up in all the excitement of the test knit and just whipped up this hat. I did it basically in one day. I cast it on in the morning, before work, and I did most of the ribbing whilst I was eating my breakfast, and then the whole evening I just went through the whole chart and did the pom-pom yesterday. So yeah, I like it, but I probably won't ever wear it. I think what I need to do really is go back in and start my decreases like here, so I can get rid of all that extra fabric. I think if I was going to wear a hat, I would want it like tight against my head. I just think that's a bit more practical in keeping you warm, because that's the only time I wear a hat. I don't really wear them for the fashion, it's more just a practical thing for me. So I did my color work a little bit differently on the hat for the sweater, and if I'm doing a circular yoke sweater, well, I've done 2 now, so I think my preferred way of doing color work for a bigger garment is to knit English style for both strands. It just means that my tension is a lot more even for the main color and the contrasting color, and I can just kind of get into the flow of it. It's a little bit annoying in that the yarns can get tangled and you're just like constantly moving the balls, but I mean, it's just part of the process. But for the hat, I think the reason why I did it so quickly is that I knit this 2-handed color work, but I think you can tell that it's a little bit less even perhaps. The like points in the zigzags are just not quite as sharp. If I like stretch it out, it kind of helps, and I thought blocking would fix that. But my floats are definitely a lot tighter in the hat, so I'm not as happy with the color work as I am on the sweater. But it was a lot quicker and so much easier to do color work 2-handed. So I think if I just keep practicing doing that technique on smaller projects, I will kind of get used to having a more even tension. When I knit English style, I am so much tighter. I used to be a really, really tight knitter when I only knit English style, and then since I swapped to continental, I can easily meet gauge on patterns. If anything, I can be a little bit looser sometimes. So I know that if I keep practicing, I will hopefully get used to that and have a bit more of an even tension. So that is the Bonfire hat, which is my second finished object, and we'll see what happens. I think I'll just give this to someone else who needs a hat and wears them a bit more often than I do, but it's really fun to have a matching hat to a sweater. And she also included a mittens pattern in the test kind of document. So I'm not sure if these will all be released as one or if they'll be separate or what will happen with that. Probably won't knit the mittens. That's something I just never ever see myself wearing like on any occasion. Honestly, the coldest it gets here, maybe sometimes in the mornings it will be like 8 degrees, but by midday maximum temperature will be like 10 or 15 degrees. But point being is that it doesn't get cold enough for me to even really have a lot of turtleneck sweaters, let alone hats or mittens. So I probably won't be making those. So I have quite a bit left of the yarn. I did weigh this, can't remember how much I have left of this, but they barely used any yarn for the sweater and the hat together, even with the pom-pom. So I might make something for my mum. This is a colour that I think would suit her. Maybe she would like a beanie or something else, although I'm not sure if she would even wear those, so I will ask her if she wants something in this yarn, because I think this colour would really suit her. And as for this blue, maybe something for my dad to match. That would be really cute if they had matching hats when they're going, I don't know, they're always off traveling to some place, if they're going somewhere cold. Or maybe for him to wear in the mornings when he's going to golf. But yes, I think this colour would suit him. It's not really a colour I'm really drawn to, so I don't see myself making anything, but we will see what happens. Something will inspire me and I'll be ready to go when I need to. So yeah, probably will end up being gifts for whatever these turn into. Those are my 2 finished objects, which were just a bit of a whirlwind last week. I am really proud of myself for challenging myself and going out of my comfort zone and trying a bit of a different style for me, being the circular yoke and the mock neck. But I'm really glad I did something different, tried a new yarn, tried a new designer, and I'm happy that it all worked out in the end, even if we did have a few road bumps with the colours and things like that. So next I will move on to my works in progress. My first work in progress was basically a finished object yesterday, but we've gone back a little bit and we're going to fix it up. And that is my mini mock neck tank by Jessie Maed Designs. And I'm knitting this one in Knitting for Olive Merino in the colour Purple Artichoke, and I'm just knitting it on the recommended needles. I can meet gauge on this, although it is quite a sheer fabric. It's pretty see-through, and I'm not sure how wearable that will make this. Perhaps it will be just more of a layering piece than something I wear by itself, something I can just like have on under jumpers in the middle of winter, or we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm pretty comfortable wearing it, so. Anyways, I was saying that I had this as a finished object yesterday. I finished it off on like Wednesday or Thursday evening. I did the tubular bind off on the hem and blocked it the next evening, and then the following morning I think it was dry because it was quite warm overnight. So I tried it on and I was like, ew, this is not a vibe. I took a photo of how it looked, and I think the only issue that was really bothering me was the bunching at the waist. I did lengthen the body quite a bit, I think a few centimeters than what's in the pattern. It is meant to be quite cropped. The sample that Jessie has is very cropped. I think it's even above like the smallest part of the model's waist. So I definitely wanted to make it a little bit longer. I'm most comfortable, I'm wearing high-waisted jeans and a crop top that like just brushes the waistband. I don't mind it being a little bit shorter, but I don't like there being like a really big gap between my top and my bottom. I just feel like I'm constantly like pulling my shirt down or my trousers up. So yes, I wanted it to be a little bit longer, but I think I just got carried away. It's just such a good sensory experience knitting with this yarn. It's just so nice to knit with. And even though it's on tiny needles, it just went by really quickly. Although actually it's not that small. The main body is on 3.5mm needles, so for such a fine fingering weight yarn, it's quite a loose gauge really, so can't complain there. The main issue was the bunching at the waist. It wasn't giving. I think the tubular bind off was also a bit too tight, and you might be able to pick out in the picture that I'd actually ripped the tubular bind off as I was trying it on, like it just snapped and started unraveling. So I knew I'd already have to go back in and fix that up. So I just took that as an opportunity to assess where I actually wanted the top to finish, and I went back in and just put in my needles where I wanted the ribbing to start, and then went straight away into the ribbing. So I took out maybe like this much. That's not helpful, is it? Sorry. But I took out like a few centimeters, so I'm probably actually quite close to the original length in the pattern. I will have to measure it and find out, but once it's a finished objects, probably in the next podcast, I can share those details. So I'm making this in the second size, I think. Or is it the first size? I think it's the second size. The bust fits really nicely. It has a little bit of negative ease. Not a huge amount, but I think it's quite a good amount. If you're wearing like a padded bra under it, it will still fit, but if you're just wearing nothing, then it's still comfortable. So it's nice that it's a little bit versatile. The neckband, I did a little bit longer than the crew neck, but not quite the mock neck length, and finished it off with a really nice, neat tubular bind off, if I say so myself. I really like how that looks. The neckband is also quite tight. It takes me like a little bit of coaxing to get it over my head, so I've not heard anyone else have that issue. I have a feeling it's because I'm using a finer yarn than recommended, because the Knitting for Olive Merino is 250 meters per 50 grams, I think. So it is a light fingering weight yarn, so perhaps I'm guessing that's what it comes down to. But I can still get it on and off, and it sits really nice and flat. There's no like bunching or anything. So I think I'll just have to be careful, and worst case scenario, if it does break like it did on the hem, I can always go back and pick up the stitches and fix it up. It's a really small neck hole, so it won't take me too long if that does happen. And that's the best part about making your own garments and having leftover yarn. So if something does happen, you know how to fix it, and I think that's so cool. We're not too far away from finishing this one. I think this length will be a lot better. I'm not wearing trousers, but you can see that my waist kind of finishes here, and it will kind of be probably a little bit below the smallest part of my waist, which is exactly where I want it to be. This went by so quickly. Last podcast I had done the back panel, the 2 front side pieces, and I think I just joined in the round. And after that, it just sped by so quickly. It was so much fun to do the rest of the front, and then you join and you're just knitting stockinette in the round until you're ready to go. And because it's meant to be quite cropped, there's not a huge amount of body to go. A little bit of a hiccup with taking back some length, but that's fine. I also think my armholes are not quite as deep as in the original pattern, but I'm actually quite happy about that. I have heard some people say that, oh, it's not bra friendly, it kind of goes quite low down and it's not the easiest thing to wear. My row gauge was quite a bit shorter than recommended when I did my gauge swatch, so I kind of anticipated that and just thought, if I'm just considerate of trying it on as I go before I like commit to the whole body, and just make sure that I'm happy with it, and I can always maybe block out a bit of extra length, then I'll be okay. But that is actually the best fitting part all around here. I'm really happy with. I can just wear a normal bra and it covers all of the straps, I think. So, I mean, I don't really care if they show, but it is always nice when garments do consider those things. So we're very close to finishing this one and I'm excited to wear it. I think it will just be a really fun piece to wear. I'm imagining myself like wearing it with some really cool black high-waisted wide leg trousers and maybe like a cardigan or a jacket over the top in the evenings when it's still warm, or like maybe you're going out and it's still warm but you know that you'll be colder in the evening. I can see myself wearing it there, or just even in winter as a bit of a layering piece, or even on just like milder days or days where I'll be inside in the air conditioning all day. I can have this and look really cool. I just think it's like such a fun thing to have. Maybe it was just the like excitement that I saw everyone making these and I was like, I just want to be a part of that. And I think obviously Jessie May is like very cool, very trendy, and if she thinks that anyone can make this, then I want to be a part of that. So it's just sometimes nice to jump on a bandwagon and make something that everyone else is doing, and just that sense of community is, who doesn't like that? And that is my first work in progress / almost finished object. I think that will probably be the next thing that I complete, and I'm really excited to start wearing that one. The next work in progress I want to share is something that hasn't had a huge amount of love, but I have put in a few rows here and there, and that is my Sophie shawl. It's not even on needles at the moment, it's just on barber cords because I stole the cord for an emergency cast on that I did last night that we'll get into in a little bit. But yeah, I've actually made quite a bit of progress. Like, it's a pretty decent length at the moment. I think it's not quite where I want it to be, but oh, it's so nice and squishy and soft. I love it so much. So I'm making this in Bendigo Woollen Mills Luxury 8-ply in the colour Slate, and it's very, very soft superwash Australian merino, and it is absolutely perfect for this project. It is so soft and squishy, and because I'm holding it double, there's just so much. This garter is just so nice. Wow, I love it. It's also such a wearable, practical colour. It's not going to show up dirt, and it will probably go with everything in my wardrobe, and I'm really excited to have a nice cozy garter shawl to take around with me in winter. So as I had about 400 grams of this DK weight yarn left, I measured what I had to like have a precise number of grams, and I'm just going to knit until I've used half, doing the increases, and then once I'm at that point I'll start doing the decreases. So I'm estimating I'll probably get the middle size in the pattern. It comes in 3 sizes. I have heard that the large one is ridiculously large, especially when it's blocked and you can stretch out quite a bit of length in the garter. It's just a bit more of an impractical, oversized scarf shawl. So I think I will be happy if I can reach the stitch count for the second size about. I'll definitely get like in between the smallest and the middle. So I'm hoping I can get at least to the middle size, but we'll just see how we go. It's just a really fun little thing to just pick up and do when I just want something like not super mindless, because you are counting your rows before you do the increases, but it's just very comforting doing garter stitch. I think it's the yarn combination and the stitch being garter is like very nostalgic of when you learn how to knit and you're just knitting and knitting and making a huge garter stitch scarf, but you're also making it obviously like a little bit more refined with the I-cord and the decreasing like the shaping as well. So really enjoying making this one. I'm not in a hurry to do it, as I keep bragging. It's, oh my god, it's so hot here, I don't need like all these winter clothes, but it's just nice to be working on things that I will eventually wear. I do follow a lot of people on Instagram and watch a lot of other people on YouTube who are not in the southern hemisphere, so they're all in their autumn mode and preparing for winter, and like their summer knits are long gone. So I was actually talking to another Perth knitter about this, in that maybe sometimes we do want to just make summer things in winter and winter things in summer and like follow the trends and the excitement that are going on in the other hemisphere, which I actually don't think is a bad idea. I think I will be making projects that I'm excited about because I've seen someone else do and I'm inspired, but at the same time I will have things ready for the next season, so I'm not rushing to quickly make all these summer knits that I can wear. Even though our summers are quite long, I'm not like working on things all through December and January to then wear for like another month or 6 weeks before it gets too cold to wear them. So I think I'm just going to see how that goes. I might just play around and see if I like doing that. Sometimes it will be like too hot to be working on wool and all you want to do is knit on cotton. So I think I will definitely still be doing a few summer knits here and there. But I really enjoy just working on these woolly projects. And I am going away at the end of the year. I'll be somewhere really cold. I'll be in England and Ireland, so this is kind of the main motivation for this project, to be honest, is that I will have like an excuse to be wearing, and probably a need actually to be wearing some cooler weather accessories. So I'm almost halfway through. I've probably got maybe another dozen increases to do, and then we'll be able to start decreasing and have a really nice squishy garter Sophie shawl. My next work in progress hasn't had too much attention on it since the last episode, but I have done a little bit, and these are my broken rib socks. I am making these in Circus Tonic Handmade bamboo Ching sock in the colour Spangled Drongo, with there's like a beautiful tonal, but it's just got this really subtle like variation in the grey, like lighter grey and the blues. So I have finished one sock. These are a pair for my granddad. So I'm kind of guessing a little bit on the size because he doesn't live here with us. But I've done one sock and I've done the leg and started the heel flap on the second sock. So I'm just following along with the pattern. I do have one qualm about it though. This is probably really silly, and I haven't fixed it in the second one because I was lazy, and I honestly don't think a non-knitter would notice, but you can see the gusset decreases on this side kind of like follow the 3 stitches, but on this side you only have 2. So I was a little bit like, that's annoying, but it is a free pattern and it's a super easy fix if I wanted to, but I just didn't. I don't think anyone will notice except me, and it doesn't affect the way that you're going to wear the socks. So I think for the next pair I'm doing for my grandma, I'll probably fix it for her. So we are working on the heel flap for this one, just a nice slip stitch heel flap as written in the pattern, and then we are smooth sailing for the rest of the foot. I really don't mind doing a heel flap and gusset. I kind of like the change of pace in that you switch to knitting flat for a little bit and then you're doing the heel turn and then obviously picking up your stitches, and the rest of the foot just seems to go by really quickly. I do get sometimes that it can be a little bit annoying if you just want some plain knitting, but I don't mind doing that. I think it fits really well for a wide variety of people, which at the end of the day is probably the most important thing for me when I'm knitting socks for someone else. I don't think I mentioned it's a free pattern, so the issue with like the gusset decreases is not really something I can complain too much about. But yeah, really enjoying the broken rib. I haven't knit broken rib before, so it was fun to try something different, and I think it gives a really good effect without too much purling as you would have with regular ribbing. So I'm hoping to also have these ones done by the next episode. I think that should be pretty doable. These are kind of a bit of my lunchtime knitting that I work on when I'm on my lunch break at work, and we'll just keep plodding along on those ones. They're going to be a Christmas gift, so I've got plenty of time to finish those. And this is the yarn that my grandma's socks will be made out of. I have shown this before. It's also Circus Tonic Handmade in the colour Vanilla Lily, which is so beautiful. These are like classic my grandma colours. I think she'll really like these and she'll look really, really good in them. So that will also be maybe another broken rib sock, or maybe just a regular rib. I'll just have to see how I feel. I really enjoy doing the broken rib, so I'll probably end up doing the same. I have one more work in progress that is the reason my Sophie shawl is not on any needles. I had a bit of an emergency need to cast something on last night. I wasn't vibing any of the other things I had going on. I think I just really always like to have a sweater or a garment going as my main project. In hindsight, I probably should have just smashed out the rest of my mini mock neck, but that was not happening. I just didn't really feel like doing ribbing and then having like all of the ends and everything to weave in. So I cast on another sweater. This one is the Aros sweater by PetiteKnit. It is one of her older patterns, and unfortunately not one of her most size inclusive ones, as a lot of her older patterns are. There are more size inclusive patterns that have a similar construction, which I will leave links to below if you're interested in those. I did buy the pattern a few years ago and didn't really understand the importance of size inclusivity in knitwear design, and obviously like a designer like PetiteKnit has so many resources at her disposal that she could easily go back and make these ones size inclusive. But anyway, we're not going to get into all the politics of that. I will leave some other patterns that have a similar construction if you wanted to check them out. So as I'd already bought the pattern and I had the yarn, I just cast this one on, and so far it's really enjoyable. I'll firstly just talk about the yarn quickly. I'm making this in Drops Lima in the colour 0619, and this is a 65% wool, 35% alpaca yarn. And I've made a sweater with this before. I made a Deer Duomo sweater and I love it so much. I made it in a lighter grey colour. The yarn combination with the design just went so beautifully together, and I bought a sweater's quantity of this with the intention of making another Deer Duomo. I'd cast on a Deer Duomo twice with this yarn and something about it just wasn't working out. I couldn't quite get my gauge correctly, even though I'd made that pattern with the same yarn before. It just looked really loose for some reason, so I put that aside for like a month or two and just thought last night, I was like, I just want a sweater. I just want something squishy that I can just plod along on. And I was tossing up between the Aros sweater and the balloon sweater, which is another not so size inclusive PetiteKnit pattern that I have made previously. And I knit that one in Filcolana Arvetta in the marzipan colour with a strand of Drops Killed Silk. And it is like definitely not brown, it's more of like a lighter beige, but I was like, they're very similar colour palettes. I don't think I need a second balloon sweater in a similar colour. So I went for the Aros sweater, and this one is a saddle shoulder design. Probably should have it on a longer cable so I can probably show it, but here is the saddle shoulder. There you can see the shaping is so cleverly done. It just amazes me that like you can do that with yarn and needles. That just looks so impressive, I think. I haven't tried this on yet. I only joined in the round this morning and have just been knitting it on a car, so I haven't had a chance to try it on. I think I'll probably do a little bit more, although it is, you know, pretty substantial. I've got like an inch at least there, so probably not a bad idea to try it on now and just see how we're going. Didn't gauge swatch for this or anything, just being a bit wild here. I usually always gauge swatch because I'm just always scared I'm going to put all the effort into a sweater and then it not fit how I want it to. But usually I'm pretty close on gauge with PetiteKnit patterns, so I just took a gamble and went for it, and this yarn has already been frogged twice into like a little bit of a sweater, so not too worried anyway. So yeah, I was just having a lot of fun doing the saddle shoulder last night. I was just watching some podcasts, like doing each section methodically, and it was just really nice to like have little chunks of a pattern that you could be like, oh, I've done that, okay, what's next? Like, what's the next step? So I'm quite happy with how this is going so far. The yarn is just really nice and soft. I love alpaca so much, the drape and the feel of it, and you also get like a little bit of this kind of like longer strands, and I just think it looks so nice. I'm really a big fan of this color as well, so I think if drops have this in other bases, I'm keen to give it a go. Definitely the drops daisy. I actually really want to try that one out. I heard Rebecca from the Crayabaya in her latest podcast describe it as like a dupe for Double Sunday, which is obviously quite a bit more expensive than drops daisy, and Sadness Garn is quite difficult to get a hold of here. With the shipping costs and everything coming from Denmark, it is quite an expensive yarn to buy a sweater's quantity of. So I'm keen to give that a go. If they have something in this color, we might buy some and do a Semper cardigan. Anyway, that is not the reason why we're talking about that. So I am just going to plod along on this. I think I will finish the like shoulder increases, and then probably, I guess then you split for sleeves. I'll probably pick up the neckline pretty shortly after that, because I think it just makes the like project look a little bit more put together, and when you can see it coming to life a little bit more, I find that I'm more motivated to work on it, because I'm like, oh, I can really see how this will look and how I can style it, and just get a little bit more excited to finish it. Especially when you get to like the main body and you're just knitting it around for what feels like ages, it can be nice to have a bit more motivation to work on it. So I know that this yarn wears really well for such an inexpensive yarn. I really liked working with it previously, and same thing goes for this one. I'm also keen to try the Drops Nepal, which I think is a very similar base to the Lima, but is like a chunkier worsted Aran weight. So maybe we will do a little bit of a cheeky wool warehouse order in the not too distant future. So if you have any other recommendations for drops yarn or things that you can buy in Wool Warehouse, do let me know and I will take a little look. So the Aros sweater is meant to be done with stripes. I don't think there's too many projects on Ravelry and Instagram for this one, so I assume that's why she hasn't updated the sizing, because it's just not one of her most popular patterns. I think the April cardigan though is also a saddle shoulder. I haven't made that one, so I can't speak 100% truth, but I believe it's a very similar construction. Obviously just a cardigan instead of a sweater. So I originally bought that pattern thinking I would one day do like a really fun color combination and make a fun stripy sweater, but never got around to it and had the pattern in my library sitting untouched for a few years. Now I'm more looking at designers who are more size inclusive and more intentional with their designs. I still knit PetiteKnit patterns. I think most people are drawn to her designs. They're really easy and wearable. This one is no exception. It's just a shame that it has limited sizing. I haven't measured my gauge on this yet, so that's probably not a bad idea to do that now before I commit to knitting the whole thing in the wrong size. I am making the first size, the extra small in this one, and I'm quite surprised that it's, I think, graded to a 90 centimeter finished bust circumference, which for me gives quite a bit more ease than what's recommended in the pattern. So she also doesn't seem to have gone down as small as her normal sizes do, like given the recommended positive ease in the pattern. But yeah, just another thing to consider. It's obviously still a very thoroughly well-written pattern, as all PetiteKnit patterns are, and I've so far encountered no issues with it. So I will also, I'll just keep going on this one. Perhaps in the future we'll make a stripy one. It gives quite clear instructions on how to do the color changes and where to do that as well. So if you do want to make a striped saddle shoulder pattern and you're not confident with changing the colors and doing the stripes and everything without some guidance, then this one is still a really good option. It's been a while since I've made a PetiteKnit sweater pattern actually. I find them quite comforting. I think it's similar to the garter, like Sophie shawl. Like that's very nostalgic of when you first start learning how to knit and you're just knitting garter scarves. I think my first sweater was that balloon sweater by PetiteKnit that I was talking about. And I just find it very comforting going back to like the first kind of style of pattern, especially because I think these maybe were released around a similar time, or they're both a bit of her older designs. I don't know, it's just very nostalgic and comforting to go back to something that is very intuitive to me and kind of the way that I learned how to read garment knitting patterns. So it's been really nice to go through that, and especially after the Bonfire sweater being like a bit of a like excitement and rush to get through to the end, just kind of go with this at my own pace and see how we wind up. But I think we'll be okay. I'm really liking the colour. I think the fit, we should have a little bit of wiggle room given that I will end up with more ease than recommended in the pattern if I meet gauge. So those are all of the knitting projects that I have to share. I have one acquisition, which is very, very exciting, and that is a skein of sock yarn. This is a 4-ply sock, 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, and it is the colour Jasmine from Penguin Rooty Yarns. Look at the beautiful neon speckles on this kind of undyed base. I think this is so pretty. I was in Frio last weekend. I went in to buy my extra skein of the Croft to finish my Bonfire sweater, and then whilst I was there I picked myself up some lunch. I got a bao bun. If you're ever in the markets in Frio, go to the little store that has bao buns because they're so good. I'm just reminiscing on that time where I was sitting in Esplanade and I had my bao bun and I was knitting on my Bonfire sweater and I was just sunny and warm. I just love doing that. I love taking myself out to the beach or the park and sitting and getting a really nice little treat, a nice lunch, doing my knitting, listening to a podcast and just watching the world go by. So picture that, I was doing that, and then I saw there was like market stalls set up not too far from where I was sitting. Something was just telling me to go. I was like, oh, that looks kind of fun. I'm not usually someone who enjoys going to markets, like unless it's a specific like handmade market or like an artisan one where I know I'll find like things that I can appreciate, or just look at things where I'm like, wow, that took that person a long time to make that, or that's a lot of skill that went into making that. What I'm saying is that I'm not someone who will seek out markets, but this one I stumbled across it and I was like, I just want to have a look around. I feel like there might be some yarn here, which if you're not in Perth is not a super common occurrence. I think there are a few dyers who will set up stalls at markets here or there, but most of the time it's very, very rare to just stumble across yarn, and that is exactly what happened with this. It was just meant to be. I was out on a little date with myself. I'd already bought some yarn. I was knitting on a project in a really fun test knit where I just felt really connected to some people in the online community, and we found some more yarn. I have bought one skein from Penguin Rooty Yarns before. It's a mother and daughter duo who dye the yarn together, I believe. And I really enjoyed working with the other skein that I bought. I think I bought a DK it was a superwash, and I made a little festival sweater baby for one of my sister's friends who had a little bub, and it was really nice to work with. I hope it's worn okay. I did wash that in the washing machine before I gifted it and it came out perfectly fine. So I am pretty confident that it will wear okay. But that's the only time I've used their yarn, and that one was in a bit more of a neutral colour. I just wanted something that I could pair with the blue that I had in mind for the sweater, and it was nice to just stumble across them again. And if I'm just buying a single skein of yarn from somewhere, my go-to is probably just a 4-ply sock yarn, because if I don't want to make anything else with it, I can always make socks, and even just some vanilla socks in this with like a pink contrast heel and toe would look so fun. I doubt I'll make socks with this because it is an undyed base and they'll get dirty, and then it will be really obvious that they're a bit dirty. So I think my plan for this is another mini mock neck tank. It's really, really soft. It's like a nice superwash yarn, So I think that will be really fun. Now I have like 3 mini mock neck tanks already on top of my purple one that I have planned, but it's just such a fun pattern. I really enjoyed making it, and I can see myself like wearing them a lot, even if they're in fun colors like this that I might not wear every day. It's just nice to have like a layering piece that is a little bit more out there. So that's my plan so far for this one. Who knows, it might be turning into something else, maybe another camisole or something else like that. But it was just really nice, fun experience. I was so happy when I found them there, and I was just having such a good afternoon. And then I found more yarn and it became a great afternoon. They also have these really, really cute little like progress keepers that they kind of attach to the yarn when you purchase it. I'm not sure if they do that when you do online orders. I've only bought from them at market, so that was really cute. I have another little one to add to my collection. So that is all of the knitting content that I have to share with you today. If you don't want to hear about the sewing, that is not a problem, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. But if you do want to hear about a little bit of sewing that I've been doing, then stay tuned. There's not very much, unfortunately. I definitely am more in a knitting phase of my life. Sometimes I do just get into the sewing mode and I'm looking at all of the patterns, all the fabrics, and I just want to sew, and that's all I want to do. So that might happen again during the summer. I definitely sew a lot more when it's warmer. I think I said that previously. It's just a bit more what I'm drawn to in terms of the fabric, pattern combos and things like that. So the only piece of sewing that I have to share is what I'm wearing. It is actually not 100% finished, but you won't be able to see that. So I wanted to wear it anyway and just see if I was comfortable in it before I wear it. I'm planning on wearing it out tomorrow when I'm having breakfast with the girls. So it's nice and comfortable. I think it will be a good one to wear all day. So anyway, I will stand up and just show it off a little bit better. But this is the Sandpiper dress. I did show the fabric already and the buttons in a previous episode, and we finally got around to making her. It is the mini length. It's not hemmed yet, and I haven't sewn on the last button, which I think I probably won't, but I just wanted to wear it a little bit before I decided on the length. So I have made this dress before. I made actually a maxi length one with the long sleeves for one of my friends, and I've made myself a long sleeved just top. And I really enjoyed that. It was a really fun process. Unfortunately, I don't wear that top a lot. I think mainly due to my fabric choice is just not really a color that I'm drawn to. And the other thing that bothers me a lot about that is just like the facing and the neckline. I struggle a lot with doing like these facings. I don't know what it is, whether I'm just lazy when I cut it out and I'm not cutting it out on the proper grain. Probably most likely, or just the way I'm sewing it in, or the fabrics that I choose. This is like a rayon linen blend, so it is a little bit slippery, but not too bad. The previous top that I made was in 100% rayon, which is like very, very slippery, and it was hard to pin the kind of pieces together and get them to line up. So I think we'll just blame it on that. I'll blame it on the fabric. It was nothing to do with me. But this one I'm much happier with. The neckline sits not perfectly straight, but it's not bad. Like it's definitely wearable. The back neck, I don't know if you can see, but it's not like the best. It does flare out a little bit at the top, but I think if I tap down the facing, you won't be able to see it if my hair covers, and it will just make me feel a little bit better when I'm wearing it. I'm not constantly like trying to poke it down and no one can see that. So this version I'm much happier with. I tackled a few things. I did make one other modification to the depth of the V. The first dress I made, when I put it on, it was so low, like it came down to like probably here, and it was just unwearable. On my friend, it's absolutely fine. So I think we are like pretty similar size. It must just be our like torso proportions, and that just threw off mine completely, and it was just unwearable. So I did modify the pattern a little bit in like bringing this up, which was very easy. I just like drew up on the facing and on the neck to make it like, if it was like this, I would go like this, and try to keep everything straight. So yeah, I'm quite happy with that modification. If I make another one, absolutely I will do the same thing again. very straightforward, and just to make something a little bit more comfortable for me to wear. In terms of like the sizing and everything, I'm really comfortable, easy to wear. It's not too tight, but it's not like too oversized, and like I feel like if I bend down, like that's just going to show everything. So it's just nice and breathable and easy to wear, which is exactly what I wanted. I'm definitely finding that I'm lacking like easy to wear but also like nice and fun dresses for summer. Like I have a few that are very dressy and nice for like dinners and things, or if you have a bit more of a fancier event. And then I have dresses that are more just like wear around the house and probably don't go out and like just throw on when it's really hot. So I'm glad that I have something a little bit more in between now. The color is definitely more like autumnal. It's not the most summery, but I quite like it. It's not something I have a lot of in my wardrobe, so it's nice to try something different. And I'm so pleased with how the buttons look. I'm not sure what it is, but the color combination looks so nice. You can see the top one is like not straight. I was trying to line up like this seam here, which I didn't do a fantastic job on, but I think before I wear it, I will move that button over so it's straight, because that is exactly what my eye is drawn to. I'm not sure if you noticed that, but it really annoys me, so I'll fix that up. And then I'll obviously hem the dress and cut off the last button loop. Overall, very happy with how this project has turned out. It did take me a few days. There's just a lot of steps involved, and I just wanted to take my time, knowing that the top, especially with the facing, just didn't turn out amazingly. I took my time and really enjoyed the process, which obviously is probably more important than anything else in sewing. Obviously the finished object to me is important, but if I take my time and really enjoy what I'm doing, that is kind of the main purpose of that as a hobby for me. So I did obviously the short sleeves. I made sure the elastic was really loose. I just don't like it when you have sleeves like this that are really tight, especially if you're wearing it all day. It's just uncomfortable. So that's nice and loose. I can always go back in and put new elastic in if I want them tighter, obviously. And apart from that, we're really happy with this. I definitely will make another one. Maybe another top with the short sleeves would be really cute. I'm not sure if I would get much wear out of that though. But yeah, perhaps another short dress, maybe with the long sleeves. I think if I were to make another one for summer, I think I would choose, I like the linen blend, but maybe in a lighter color. I don't know if this will be super wearable for summer. To me, it just like looks like an autumn color. Maybe it's because everything on Instagram is like, oh, fall colors, oh, fall vibes, all these rusty brown colors. So I think that's just the association that I have, but I will just see how we go. I think I'll still get a lot of wear out of it. It'll be a really easy to wear dress for summer if I still want to look put together with some sandals, or maybe even Converse will look really nice with this as well. So that is everything I have to share today. Thank you so much for watching to the end if you have, and listening to me ramble about one sewing thing that I have done in the past few weeks. I'm always, so happy to see that so many people want to come back and listen to me talk about my knitting. I'm also over on Instagram at PetiteKnit, where I usually post kind of before I would film a podcast episode. So if you wanted to keep more up to date about what I'm knitting on, you can follow me along there. And obviously I would be really happy if you were to subscribe and like the video, and that just makes my day when I see that more people have wanted to come back and share about what I'm talking about. So thank you once again for watching, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. See ya!